I'm always on the lookout for new shows my 3-year-old daughter can watch. We live in Japan, and I'm the only native English speaker in her life, so exposing her to English as often as possible is a big priority for me. Naturally, we've worked our way through tons of kids shows at this point, with the quality of writing, performances, and educational value being all over the place. But we're not going to talk about those shows today. We're going to talk about Bluey. Not only is Bluey one of the best kids shows I've ever seen, it goes toe-to-toe with some of my favorite shows ever. There's this opinion going around the internet that Bluey is just as much for adults as it is for kids, and the truth is, they're right. The fact is, Bluey's label as kids' entertainment is keeping the show from reaching adults who I think would really love it. I know I would have never seen it or even been aware of it if I didn't have a kid, and after having seen it, I think that sucks. And it got me thinking, where exactly is the line drawn between a kids show and a show for adults? How can a show bridge the gap without alienating one side or the other? If Bluey sat side by side next to other adult shows, I bet a much larger percentage of people would be willing to give it a chance. And that's what I'd like to do today. Sit Bluey next to classic adult TV shows and see if you might give it a chance as well. This chapter of the video is called Community. I used to do improv and make skits as a kid, just like how Troy and Abed do in Community, so I really enjoyed those scenes in that show. Another thing Community does really well is play around with its format, often through parodies of other shows or movies, leading to some really great moments and set pieces. One critique I have with Community is that because it's an adult show, anytime there's an outrageous scenario, the writers feel like they have to take additional time to justify why the grounded adult characters would participate in something so silly.
Why do you guys do stuff like this?
And although stuff like Jeff's cynicism can make for a great arc when viewing an episode in isolation, it can be tiresome when viewing the series as a whole. One of the best examples of this is in Abed's Christmas special. The production team went way over budget to deliver this ambitious and heartfelt episode, but it feels like the writing undermines that effort. The majority of the dialogue is reminding us that what we're seeing isn't real, and that Abed is crazy for seeing it. As viewers, we know this is going to be a one-off episode, so we want to see the new style reach its fullest potential and indulge in the medium.
For starters, you can move around more. Not much point in being animated if you don't. And I think we should commit to the format, starting with a song.
Instead, the characters stand around and brainstorm ways to get things back to normal. We feel guilty as viewers for wanting to enjoy the new style because the driving force for much of the story is to make the style go away. Finally, in the last few minutes, the characters are able to embrace the premise, and we get to have some fun, but it's too little too late. All right. Indulging in a premise is one of Bluey's greatest strengths. The majority of the episodes are centered around role-playing scenarios acted out by the kids and parents. Patient in a waiting room, a tent on a mountain, grannies on a bus. You'll never see a character break the fourth wall to call out that goofy behavior, and you'll never see a character call an idea stupid. The first rule of improv is to always say yes, and every character, including parents, friends, neighbors, and even random strangers, are completely dialed in on the improv and treat every game as if it has real stakes. The show skips over that in-universe explanation and just allows the fun to happen. As a kid, it's great to watch because you get to see adults be silly and watch ideas play out perfectly. But as an adult, there's an extra layer of entertainment to these episodes. Watching adults wordlessly working together, all for the sake of keeping the magic alive in a kid's game, it's really fantastic to watch. It makes you wish adults had that same effortless collaborative skill in real life. Compare that Christmas episode of Community to this Bluey episode, Dragon.
A motorbike? I thought this was an old-timey Elfie story.
Hey guys, you wanna come with us to find the dragon?
They have a lot of similar elements. They both use a new visual medium to tell the story, and the visual medium itself is a plot device acknowledged by the characters to help someone overcome a personal issue. One problem I have with the Abed episode is that in the context of the world, only Abed can see what's happening. When he reimagines the cast as toys, their new forms aren't really utilized as something the characters can react to. Like, there's not a scene where they use Jeff's Jack-in-the-Box body to grapple to the other side of a cliff or something, right? We can enjoy Abed's creativity, but none of the characters in the show can.
What are we looking at?
In the Bluey episode, all 4 characters participating can see everything and can react to it. Even better, each character is able to create things in the world, so each character feels like an equal part of the journey.
Can you draw a forest, Mum?
Okay. Will the dragon be in it, do you think?
No, not yet.
The show then takes the premise a level deeper by having each character's drawing proficiency play a part in the outcome. The family arrives in a clearing and are supposed to meet a talking tree. The dad's interpretation of that versus Bingo's interpretation of that completely changes the direction and tone. But then, out of nowhere, they take it a level deeper than that. The family is meant to find a dragon, but Bluey has lost confidence in her drawing ability. The parents go on to reveal their histories with drawing. The dad gave up drawing when a classmate made fun of him, while the mom continued practicing after her mom encouraged her. So the variety in drawing ability goes beyond being just a quirk each character has, and becomes the emotional heart of the story.
Your mum sounds nice.
Yeah, she was.
It concludes with each of these characters completing their own arc for their drawing ability. Bluey gains her confidence and slays that dragon. Bandit, the dad, gets his confidence back and goes back to drawing what he likes to save the family from a collapsing cave. And Chili, the mom, says a fond farewell to her horse, meant to represent her memories with her mom.
Thank
It's fun, it's clever, it's funny, it brings joy, it brings melancholy, all in the span of 6.5 minutes. Now, one potential argument against the show being for adults is the length. Although kids benefit the most from the shorter episode length, having a shorter show for adults isn't so unreasonable these days. You've got shorter adult shows like Smiling Friends, which has garnered critical acclaim, and then there's that endless well of TikTok videos, which have definitely altered our attention spans. In fact, I'd say that longer videos almost have to change up topics every few minutes just to keep people from clicking away. This chapter of the video is called TV Parents. In the 50s and 60s, Dad put the man in Man of the House. They would give the best advice ever, and the whole family would hang on their every word.
Well, I'll tell you, son, women do all right when they have all the modern conveniences. But us men are better at this rugged type of outdoor cooking. Sort of a throwback to caveman days. Hand me those asbestos gloves, would you, Ollie?
The mom's role was essentially to agree with the dad, bring up issues with the dad, and take care of the house. Moms didn't really go to work, which reflected society at the time. That's right, folks. Single-income households used to be possible. Never forget. Anyway, in the 80s and 90s, dad stocks tanked, and we had a wave of buffoon TV dads. They're clueless, they do stupid things, they don't particularly care about their kids, they exist to deliver jokes.
Hey, Lois, can you grab me a beer? Lois?
Although this ended up having a pretty negative impact on how real dads are perceived, it allowed the TV mom to step up and have juicier roles.
Cliff, I have some research to do at the office,
Yes.
but I'll be home in time for dinner.
Ooh, then I'll cook something for you.
Would you do that for me?
I'd be happy to.
They were now the glue keeping the family together, giving loving advice and putting out fires.
Sweetheart, a missing crayon could be anywhere.
Who wants lottery tickets?
Okay, it's in his brain.
Bluey's dad, Bandit, stands out among TV dads. He basically lives life for his kids, which is a type of TV dad we've never really seen before. He's always able to make time for them, he's on board with any game, even ones he hates. He's able to establish rules and teach lessons while keeping things fun and light. And he talks to kids about their feelings and helps them overcome problems. He's so good that he almost holds parents who watch the show to a higher standard because their kids have seen the best example TV can offer. We've done some comparisons to adult shows, but let's take a quick look at Daddy Pig from Peppa Pig to see the difference. He started out as a relatively normal dad, but as the show's gone on, Flanderization has overtaken the character, and he's succumbed to that classic dad buffoonery. He falls through the school roof, he claims to be an expert at grilling and then sets the grill on fire. He's generally the butt of the joke, something the writers aren't afraid to mention.
Ho, ho! That usually happens to me. That is going to happen to me, isn't it? I'm going to go in there and get stuck.
I'm definitely not the first person to bring up Bandit. In fact, he may very well be why the show became so popular. But I think people tend to forget about Bluey's mom, Chili. I think this is because there are already so many positive mom figures on TV, so it's harder for her to stand out. While Bandit makes headlines, because you've never seen a dad like this. Really, for anyone who's seen the show, you know that they're a package deal. They're great characters precisely because they play off each other so well. In fact, if I were to sculpt a backstory for these two, I'd say they performed as a two-person improv troupe for 15 years before they decided to settle down and have kids.
I'd like to get married and have your bus babies.
Oh. One of the greatest aspects of watching Bluey as a parent is self-inserting your own experiences. Things that you may have done with your kid that you can reflect on or laugh about. Or, for adults who don't have kids, reminiscing on things you did when you were young. But what's better than seeing things you've done? Getting ideas for new things to do. Not just for playtime with kids, but also for more serious situations that could come up. On the fun side, there's one where you learn about trampoline games, ways to make taking out the trash fun. There's even a show about improv. And I think that one sneaks up on you as one of the best for dads out there watching, who may feel that they can never live up to Bandit's role-playing.
Well, I'm sorry I said Bluey's dad is more fun than you.
That's okay. He probably is.
On the more serious side, we've got this episode, where Bluey asks to be graded as a mom. She has a bunch of these balloon babies, but one of them is special and won't go along with the others. It's a great metaphor for parents watching who may feel lost at times with their own kids. This chapter of the video is called The Target. While a lot of these morals at the end of these stories are great for kids to learn, you could argue some of them are more relevant to the life of an adult than the life of a kid. In this one, the kids are excited to stay up late for a sleepover, but one of the kids is transitioning out of naps, so they're feeling a bit loopy from the lack of sleep. The kids then have to do the right thing and go to bed early, even if it's not what's the most fun. Now, the moral of the story is, your friends are more important than having fun. And while that's a totally reasonable moral for kids to learn, I don't think the average kid would ever encounter this scenario in real life. To an adult, though, the parallel is obvious. It's that classic story of the one friend who's had too much to drink, and the rest of the group has to make a decision. Should we keep the night going and leave our plastered friend in the corner of the room, or should we take care of her and head home early? I mean, look, there's literally a scene where Muffin smashes her car into a fountain. As far as I can remember, Bluey's backyard has never had a fountain in it except for this episode, which means they purposefully set up the fountain just to have this drunk driver car crash gag. Now, am I actually asking Ludo if they put a 3-year-old drunk driving in this kid's show?
I would never ask you that.
All I'm saying is that the premise fits better as a parable for adults than for kids. If I were writing a script like this, targeted toward kids, I think something with injury makes more sense. Maybe the kids were looking forward to playing a certain game together, and then one of the kids shows up with a broken arm. So they have to brainstorm new, fun games that don't involve using both hands, so that everyone can participate. Same moral, with a scenario much more relevant to a child's life. But instead, they write a scenario which parallels a more adult situation, even if kids are the ones acting it out. If we focus purely on characters and framing, episodes like these put you squarely in the parent's shoes, to the point where, even if I was a kid watching, I would still imagine myself as the parent, empathizing with their hectic situation.
Oh, it's okay. You won $5. Here, and so did you. Everyone wins $5. Wait, who can break a 20? Actually, look. Take one of these.
Dad, they're my presents!
And then there's those moment of learning shots at the end of the shows. You know, when there's like a slow pan in and then they have a realization. Those shots often focus on the parents, not the kids.
I guess nothing lasts forever. Work on their heads later. For now, just hearts.
You're doing great.
A show that was truly targeted toward kids would never have a shot like this.
Wow, so sad.
Really sad.
Yes, it's sad. I'm glad you guys got that.
This chapter of the video is called Jean-Luc. Let's compare one of the best Star Trek episodes of all time, Darmok, to the Bluey episode, Camping. The similarities between these two episodes are so numerous that when I first saw it, I actually thought the name of this dog, Jean-Luc, was referencing Star Trek's Jean-Luc Picard. But I looked it up and apparently it's a coincidence. Anyway, here's what happens in both shows. The main characters find themselves in the woods with a stranger. Despite their best attempts to communicate, they're unable to fully understand each other's intentions.
Huh? Est-ce qu'on joue ensemble?
Darmok and Zilard at Tanagra.
This ends up causing trouble when they decide to team up and attack a powerful beast. Due to their communications breakdown, they fail in their quest.
That wasn't the plan, Jean-Luc. You're supposed to cut him off. Oh, j'ai pensé que tu vas venir de l'autre côté.
They spend more time together and learn more about each other and begin to have breakthroughs in communication.
Darmok. Darmok on the ocean. A metaphor for being alone, isolated.
Dad taught me how to do this. Wild pig. Sanglier.
Unfortunately, they run out of time, and they part ways earlier than both of them would have wanted. Both of these episodes are similar because they have no direct conflict between people. The conflict is created by the communication barrier, the desire to understand each other, and the feeling you get when your time with someone abruptly runs out. Even though their captain dies, his objective is ultimately successful. Picard is able to communicate with the aliens, who are grateful that they're no longer alone. Still, the ending of the episode doesn't feel like a victory, like the death could have been avoided if they had just understood each other in time. And I think this is where Bluey and Star Trek differ. In Star Trek, bad things happen. People can die, missions can fail, dreams can be shattered, damage can be permanent. Every episode of Bluey has a happy ending. As time has gone on, Bluey has included more and more adult themes in their episodes. Themes that, in real life, don't always have happy endings. Death, miscarriage, infertility, mental health, the stress of caring for children, the fear that they won't turn out right. And still, the show has yet to produce what I would consider to be a sad ending. In this camping episode, Bluey says goodbye to Jean-Luc as she has for the past few days. But this time, Jean-Luc is sad. He tries to tell Bluey that his family will be gone the next morning as their vacation is over, but she doesn't understand him, and they never have a real goodbye. The next morning, she realizes what happened and feels bad about that missed connection. But then, something magical happens. Time fast forwards and a beautiful scene where the seed the two kids planted together blossoms while emotional, swelling music plays. And then a much older Bluey comes and sits under the new tree.
I know it's yours, Muffin. I'm just borrowing it.
Hello, Bluey.
This is an ending you're not going to see on Star Trek, or most adult shows for that matter. Now, the question is, can a show still be for adults and strive for realism if the ending is going to be happy every episode? While I don't think guaranteed happiness is disqualifying, I do think it limits the show in some ways. I think the best example is with The Sign, the show's first half-hour-long episode. It deals with two pretty major issues: last-minute wedding cancellation and moving to a new city. Personally, I love The Sign and its ending, but I can definitely see how the ending can rub people the wrong way. Bluey doesn't want to move, and in the final moments of the episode, she ultimately gets her wish. But for real kids out there watching, this might inspire false hope. Sometimes families have no choice but to move. Maybe the rent is too high, maybe they have to move to keep their job. In the episode, Bandit's brother, who was considering moving and decides not to, says he can always get a new job. But again, I think this plants unrealistic expectations in kids' minds who are actually going through this sort of thing. Many people out there can't just start from scratch and get a new job. Looking at the episode as a piece of art and entertainment, I think it works, but I can understand how people who look to Bluey for guidance in their lives would have issues with it. At the end of the day, though, I would never tell the folks at Ludo to stop making happy endings. Who needs realism? We have enough realism every day, and real life sucks. It's rough out there right now for just about everyone. Like, here in Japan, the yen plunged from about 100 yen per dollar to over 150 yen per dollar, all while the prices of everything skyrocketed. And that's a relatively comfortable problem to have compared to some of the stuff going on around the world. Despite having amazing characters, visuals, music, writing, I think that desire for a happy life and realizing that you're not alone in your struggle is essentially Bluey's greatest appeal. This chapter of the video is called The Future. I'd like to speculate briefly on the future of the series, and whether they'll continue moving the needle closer toward an adult audience. The first thing that stood out to me on a binge watch is how the characters seem to age in real time. There were birthdays, and the whole cast aged up. More notably, the really young characters like Muffin and Socks have shown incredible development. Muffin used to be insufferable and immature, but she's gotten much better at sharing and listening to adults, without any particular episode that prompted that change. It just kinda happened, gradually, off screen. Socks used to bark and bite and walk on all fours, but now can walk upright and form simple sentences. We've now seen Bluey as what appears to be an adult, we've seen Bandit and Chili aged up, and we've seen Bingo grow old in a montage as well. I think this all points to an interest in continuing to age up the characters as they've already been doing. I think it would be really cool to see how far they could take an idea like this. Back in the day, there was this strip in the newspapers called For Better or For Worse. The characters would age in real time, and over the decades, babies became kids, kids became teenagers, teenagers became adults, and started having kids of their own. It's an uncommon but known gimmick that comics can utilize if they so choose. For animation, it's a much more challenging prospect. Homer has been 36 for decades. What does he look like when he's 37? 38? It's generally not worth it to bother with these incremental detail changes for animation, so he just stays the same age forever. With Bluey, though, it feels like you could kinda map out the gap between her now and her under the tree in the camping episode. It looks like her body and legs get slightly longer, and she gets a little tuft of hair on her head, but that's it. So I think you could chart out those incremental steps and stretch her a little bit each year. Whether they want to bother doing this for every character in the show is another question. But it's not out of the realm of possibility for something like this to happen. A show like Adventure Time was targeted much more toward kids at the start of its run. As the show went on, Finn aged in real time, and the show gradually became darker in tone. Now, the new show is targeted specifically at adults. Essentially, the show grew up with its audience. So is this style a good fit for Bluey? If they're willing to try aging up the whole cast each season, I think that would be an incredibly innovative decision. It would fit well with the existing art style of the show, and there's precedent for the idea based on how we've seen the characters evolve already. One of the major reasons why Finn aged in Adventure Time was so that they could continue to use the same voice actor as he aged. In Bluey, they use real kids for a ton of voices, and they're all fantastic, by the way. And I'd hate to see him age out of the roles, so having the characters age up with the voice actors could be a good solution. But if they decide to get new voice actors for all the kids and keep doing what they've been doing, similar to a show like Peppa Pig, which replaces its voice actors.
I'm Peppa Pig. I'm Peppa Pig. I'm Peppa Pig.
I think that could work too. You know, whatever they choose, I trust them completely. And I'm looking forward to whatever they're cooking up. While they're making the next season, I want to give my heartfelt thanks to those of you who helped me reach that 10,000 subscriber milestone. The amount of support and positive comments I've received from you guys over the past few months, it's made me feel more joy than a million Bluey episodes. It's kind of a scary next step, but I've made a Patreon. You know, it's been so fun making these videos, and I need help now. I need help transitioning this humble little channel into a full-time thing. If you've enjoyed my videos, I encourage you to check it out, and I welcome any support you can give. Liking, subscribing, and sharing is great too. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.